Trust in government, according to experts, is founded on citizens' perceptions, its competence and intent. Not to forget that before now, trust in governance has been declining for years, and with coronavirus, it became worse. Suffice to say that the rise and fall of trust in governance is peculiar to every nation of the world. While some have it good, others are having it bad. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Olujoke Mosaku. The topic before me is trust deficit and mutual suspicion in governance. My guest is Mr. Salis Muhammad Abdulsalam, speaker and convener movement of the Rights of Al-Majri Child, Murak. Stay with us. Glad to have you here again. Thank you for coming back on the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I read somewhere that people in government tend to increase they tend to increase trust during the time of crisis. Do you belong to that school of thought, or you have a contrary opinion?
If you take, for instance, Nigeria, if there is crisis and some people actually do form the victim. So they always look up to government. That is when they trust government, if it is where crisis is concerned. Politically, if you have political crisis, the victim always look up to the government. At that point, yes, they trust the government, but when you're on the winning side, that's when you now say, yes, I trust the government, they're doing the right thing. So it depends on where the swindle, where the government stands in any of these. So it could be on any divide. So the trust where government is concerned, as it relates to crisis, depends. But trust deficit, and then mutual suspicion transcends all spheres of human endeavor. So it could be trust deficit in the economy, of governance. It could be trust deficit in the politics of governance. It could be trust deficit in how government handles educational issues. Like the national body that controls tertiary institutions, for instance, especially the university, they will always tell you government never fulfills their promise. Every time you go into any negotiation. So in the educational sector, you can give that as an example of trust deficit and mutual suspicion. So it's not only, if you have crisis where that sector is concerned, you have even in education or the colleges of education, you have trust deficit, and then you have mutual suspicion in every negotiations where their own crisis in terms of strike actions are concerned. So the government could be on either side, on trust deficit or on trust in crisis, depending on what kind of crisis: political, ethnic, religious, economic crisis. So it depends. So
Okay. Now, I believe some people might not really understand what trust deficit and mutual suspicion really is in terms of governance and even in terms of our daily living, because, when we talk about trust, okay, this is this, you have to be able to trust someone. Can you just help us, give us a breakdown of how this relate to the society?
mutual suspicion, first and foremost. Now, let's look at the educational sector. First and foremost, let it be a reality, kind of discussion. Let it not be academic. Now, when you say mutual suspicion, there is a part of government that does not trust, the union leadership where negotiations are concerned on the part of the government. On the part of the union leadership, for instance, when you talk of ASU, They also do not trust the government, to keep to the bargain, their own part of the bargain after every negotiation. For example, today you could also hear the union saying that we might go back, we might renege, we might embark on another strike because the government has not fulfilled its own part of the bargain. And then the government also tells men in place today where the union is encouraging its members not to participate in that system of payment, So what you now have here is the government feels that the union is trying to protect its members, from blocking the leakages, the corruption leakages, where a lecturer, for instance, goes on sabbatical or is a visiting professor. So he gets payments in all, by 3-4 different locations, 4 different universities, where the government feels if they go by this policy and system of payment, all these leakages will be brought. So this is where you have a slight semblance of mutual suspicion, where both parties in every given circumstance, either the government and then the private sector, there's that mutual suspicion. The government does not wholly trust, those in certain sectors, and then those in certain sectors do also not trust the government. So it's a two-way thing. That is how I think we can understand the mutual suspicion. Yeah? And then, of course, that also breeds a trust deficit because both sides do not trust each other. So the common man on the street too, when he hears promises, political promises, he does not trust, the politician making those promises. The politician on his part also sometimes does not trust the common man in actually doing what they're supposed to do. This is where the trust issue comes in. It becomes mutual. Why do people not trust the government? Yeah, because they make promises and they do not fulfill them, or they say things that do not even exist, or things that are incorrect. And then the government also does not trust as the certain sectors in the society. So these are all part of the mutual suspicion.
Let's take a trip back to during the lockdown. Due to COVID-19, a lot happened, and most nations of the world took a cue from, I guess, from the US and the European countries who were first hit by this incident, this pandemic, and how they were able to subside this pandemic, the COVID, from spreading and all, of which we are yet to recover from it because it's one step at a time. Now, the relief materials, most governments decided to actually help their people during the lockdown to be able to survive, knowing that you're not working and you need money to survive. Some gave food, stuff. Most of them gave food, money, and all. Now, all over the world, they all handled it differently in their own way. Do you think they were able to win the trust of their people as a result of this? Because we also know of some countries that some of these things were hoarded.
Yes, you see, that also is another clear example of trust deficit as it relates to Nigeria, and also clear example of mutual suspicion. Number one, part of the outcome of the NS, where people now, after the NSAS protest, towards the tail end of the NSAS protest, the government referred to them as hoodlums, decided to now, just unleash terror on government property. So we noticed at that time that there were certain locations and warehouses that had food items, that um, were designated for cushioning succor, of COVID-19 negative effect in the economy and the lives of people, especially during the lockdown. Now, such action, is a clear example of a trust deficit. If the people trusted the government, they won't go and break open those warehouses, and share or loot what was inside. If the people, if the government trusted the people, they wouldn't, the government did not make the people trust them because they did not distribute the things when they were supposed to distribute it. And then the federal government on one side says, we have shared these things, these items to states, and these items are meant to be, given to the public, Nigerian citizens, and they were not shared. What was the reason for keeping them? That also now made locals not trust their state governments, And then when they actually accessed those things or looted those things from the warehouses, it became obvious that, oh, we never trusted them. Okay, now everybody can see these things are there. Now, during the lockdown and then during the heights of the COVID pandemic in Nigeria, the staggered elections we had, or we've always had, some states actually went ahead, and conducted state governorship and then state legislative elections. So you find the governor wearing mask and you find thousands of people not wearing the mask. So the people now keep asking, how come, the only information we get, the only direction we get how to prevent the spread of COVID, comes from government. And then you have government and government, those in the politics of governance are involved in this kind of, wanton disrespect for COVID protocol, because they're saying one thing and then their actions also show a different thing or show the opposite. Trust deficit and then mutual suspicion where the public, and the government is concerned. During the COVID, that exactly points to why we're holding this discourse. The mutual suspicion was because the citizens suspect the government. That is why they went ahead to search those places, because they don't trust the government,
How bad is the issue of trust deficit and mutual suspicion in governance using Nigeria as a case study?
If you will use economic, security, political, ethnic indices, there's obvious trust deficit, there's obvious mutual suspicion, because today in Nigeria governance, every appointment, the public does not see it. They do not view it with a neutral lens of marriage. They view it from an ethnic lens and then also a religious lens. So they always try to find out, in governance, who is appointed where, and then where is he from and what is his religion. Big trust deficit. Why do you not trust the government to appoint somebody that is capable? Why do you not trust the government's appointment and then see it as it is based on merit? So the citizenry also, require a change of attitude. This trust problem, this mutual suspicion, where the citizenry does not trust the government, they suspect the government.
Okay, let's quickly go on this break, and when we come back, we continue from there. Stay with us. The program is Let's Talk, and I've been speaking with Mr. Salis Muhammad Abdulsalam, is speaker and convener, Movement for the Rights of Almajiri Child. So if you're just joining us, let's continue from where we start. So as we continue, What about family? Just like what you wrote, I saw one of your write-ups and it said, is blood no longer thicker than water? What brought about this write-up?
Yeah, first and foremost, so many lives are being wasted. It is just basically a phrase of your blood. Somebody has to be your family. It's just because somebody does not ransom, you just waste as cheap as 1,000 naira in the lives of minors. But some of the cases we hear, what I witnessed last week was even based on trust. The boy followed him out of the school because he knows him very well and he calls him uncle. You understand? And when you couldn't raise the money from the family, you just wasted the boy. Put a polythene over the boy's head and then just ended the boy's life. So, and then this is somebody that is supposed to be a family friend. It's disheartening. They were all born in, he's just 23, the boy is 9. They were all born in the same location, all grew up there together. Even after he committed the act, he still came over helping the family to look for the boy. It's so where is how come blood now does not really mean anything? We're beginning to have more people without conscience. It looks as if those without conscience are even more than those with conscience. We see it in all stratas of human endeavor. The way people loot in the economic sector, the way people are so fraudulent in the political scene, and then they no conscience. So it's terrible. The government has no choice. Collateral damage has, in dealing with bandits. You move a haul, like goods, haulage. You haul 200, 100 children. How does the security approach you and get them back if there is any resistance? Definitely, some of these children will be killed. That's the collateral damage. The biggest challenge the security forces in Nigeria have that a lot of people don't know, But lately, with the instruction from the commander in chief that anybody wielding any AK-47 should be gone down, there will definitely be collateral damage. So now they have to attack, take the war to these bandits, and that means they don't take prisoners. No arrest, no investigation. As long as you're wielding that gun, wherever it is you are, you will be gone down. So more blood will be spilled. So blood is no longer thicker than water.
That's really, really terrible. And I believe that it has to do with the fact that people are no longer comfortable. People can no longer live the way they should because things are not really working for them.
The factors are many. A lot of people, you see, this blame game and lamentation, it's not helping us. You understand? You can't bring forth children you cannot take care of. It's good enough to blame the government, but for goodness sake, 200 million people is not a joke.
I think that's what President Obasanjo also was pointing out.
Yeah, when you care about lack of jobs, most of these people are not employable. Somebody has a degree, in BSc in administration, whatever, and that person cannot, at 29, 30 years, that person cannot write an application letter. I've been in development work in the last 17 years. Proud to now, I was an entertainment entrepreneur. We interact with people. Most of these people are not employable. We have locations in Nigeria, in Jos, that parents do not even know where their 11-year-old, 10-year-old kid sleeps. Where they pass the night is not known to their parents. How can you bring forth such children? So automatically, the formal education is not there. The religious education is not there. The normal parental guidance that we're used to is absent. There is gross parental failure today. You know, so these people just grow up as animals. Why do you think I'm the convener for movements of the rights of Almajiri child? I know we will discuss it some other day, but these children too, they grow up without any empathy, without any love, without any affection. So it's, you just breed children that are angry with the society, and you breed them in large numbers. Nobody can convince, you know, that some of these children are not today those we see as bandits. Some of them are. Maybe even all of them. You know, they are products of this kind of homes, this kind of institutions, like the Almajiri practice. So these are challenges that you keep blaming the government, and we, the citizenry, are not addressing it in any way. A father will go and get a miracle center for his child to pass exams. What have you taught that child? How do you expect that child to be, you know, responsible with any position of influence? When you are the one who goes to bribe for his certificate, you are not worried about the knowledge of the child, but you want the child to have a certificate. If that child is a medical practitioner or any other professional certificate, what do you expect from the holder of that kind of certificate? So the citizenry are also, you know, to be blamed for some of these things. The lamentation is not fair. It's not fair. You know, the pressure is on the government. We are not keeping our own part of the expectation. I won't call it a bargain. I won't call it a deal.
What would you prescribe as the medication for government at all levels to win the trust of its citizens? And also, what would you say to parents? You know, the home is actually the first school, the first place of contact that a child has. So what would you suggest? How would you help us solve this problem, that if these people yield to what you're saying, there's going to be a better society?
Anybody, you know, on the saddle of leadership should not rule by sentiment, but just you should be value driven. We want value driven leadership, not leadership by sentiments and emotions, because that is what gives rise to all this ethnic, you know, consideration and the rest. Not merit, not value. And then where parents are concerned, I hope that the government will be able to have definite and deliberate legislation that will compel every parent to make sure his child, that any child, you'll be liable if you have a child that is of the age of 6 and above and is not in school. We create the problems, not only created, we're still creating the problem. Having 2, 3 wives is a status symbol. Why? When you cannot afford, you don't even own a house of your own. At 25, some 14. Why? So you bring up, do you even have the time for each child? So the National Population Commission is not working in these areas, you know, or the laws are too weak to be implemented. Now somebody just keeps bringing forth children. You go to certain locations, for instance, you have teenage mothers, girls that are barely in JSS3 have children. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying 2 or 3 girls, sometimes up to 100 teens. And then occasional pursuit is scuttled. The children now are now given to their grandparents to take care of. And then such people wake up and they blame the government for lack of opportunities. You scuttled your opportunity. 16 is not a time to have a child. So we create some of these problems and we turn around and blame the government. So I think parents need to, and the spiritual leaders need to do more in these areas that creates these problems for us. You can imagine a cleric tells you you need to negotiate with a bandit. This is spiritual failure. This is a killer on the other side. What does the scripture say? What does the scripture prescribe? So the spiritual failure goes hand in hand with the parental failure. So we need to address family values. We're bringing up. We're not only bringing for children that we cannot take care of. We're breeding children without empathy, children without love, children without compassion, children without value, children without direction. Parents, the spiritual angle of our lives, must address that area.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Salis Muhammad Abdulsalam. It's been wonderful having you on the show. And thank you so much for your wealth of experience and teaching.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much. Have a blessed week ahead.
Okay. And thank you too for being part of the show. It's been wonderful knowing that you are always there to watch us. Until another time, I remain Olujoke. And don't forget, let's review family values. Bye.